80 years ago, the D-Day invasion marked the beginning of the end of Nazi rule in Europe. On November 5th, all we have to do is vote them out. Welcome to MOMocrats Chat, part of the Demcast family of podcasts. I'm Donna Schwartz Mills with Karoli and Aliza Worthington from crooksandliars.com. And Karoli, we're just happy to have you, even if we can't see you today.
Yeah, sorry about that. No video, just my black screen. But I'm still here.
Yeah.
Yes, it's just some technical issues. Nothing to worry about.
So we will have the benefit of Karoli's commentary, which
And
we
wisdom.
missed last week.
Yes, we did.
Can we just take a moment to say, because I wasn't here last week, convicted felon Donald Trump.
Yes, it was not the same without you.
But it is always a pleasure to say
It is.
Convicted felon Donald Trump.
That's right.
And might I add, we will now, from here on out, always be able to say convicted felon Donald Trump.
Indeed.
We will never not be able to say that.
That's right.
Which is more than you can say for the exonerated five.
Right, exactly.
Who are the people that convicted felon Donald Trump very early in his shameful career.
Yes.
Saw fit to take out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for their execution after they had been exonerated of any wrongdoing.
Well, they're in good company. He wants to execute all of us.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's let's feel feel free to indulge in the legally and culturally correct term convicted felon Donald Trump. And hello to is it Shayna?
Reina,
Aww.
which means queen in Spanish, and she is a little queen.
Aww.
So, but I am looking forward to be able to talk about inmate Donald Trump.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, from your mouth to God's ears.
Although I will tell you, I agree with Aliza, from your mouth to God's ears, because I listened to Karen Friedman Agnifilo, who worked in the DA's office. She was a second in command there. And she was talking about, well, what did she think would actually be the sentence? And she thought it was too close to the First Amendment to put him in jail when he's running for office. So she thought that he would get some kind of community service, which would be like real, like picking up trash on the streets kind of community service.
Oh, for fuck's sake. That.
So, I mean, that's not, so in some ways that's not as satisfying. In other ways, though, seeing him humiliated is almost as good as seeing him in jail.
I suppose if he were in jail, we wouldn't get to see him in jail.
But he's not martyred. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of his people aren't standing out there tearing their garments, crying because they're heroes in jail.
No, and if he's out there picking up trash, people can go support him.
He won't be picking up trash. He'll have his Secret Service detail do it for him.
Yeah. Well, that might not count.
So,
So I don't know. I'm just telling you what I heard, what
it's realistic.
Yeah. So
it's realistic, but I just, here we have Joe Biden being an absolute statesman in France to mark these D-Day celebrations.
Yeah.
Commemorations.
Right.
And Trump is all over the media talking about retribution.
Oh, yeah. Sure. And there's that comparison between, how close, how Trump basically takes his playbook from the Nazis playbook, but there's also the difference between in the American legal system between the way Trump is handling his interaction with the American legal system, the American justice system, and the way Biden is handling it with regards to his son. Now, I know we have that later on in the rundown, but I mean, if you want to talk about like comparisons, Biden has said unequivocally, first of all, if this was if Trump's trials were politically motivated, then wouldn't Biden have, done something to make his own son's trial disappear? It's Biden's Justice Department that's going after.
That's right.
That
Well,
it
and here's the thing.
had brought. I mean, I know that it was a Trump appointed attorney, but right now Biden is in charge.
He didn't.
Well,
and he didn't. And he has gone on record saying, no, of course, it's an absurd question to ask me if I will pardon my son if he is found guilty of a crime. Of course not. I'm not going to pardon my son. That would be unethical. That would be, all these things. And as opposed to how Trump, interacts with
so keep in mind that on this gun charge, they were going to drop it.
Yeah.
And the reason they were going to drop it, part of the reason is, and I didn't realize this, is because somebody doctored up the forms. The forms weren't compliant. And somebody doctored up the forms.
It was pre-checked.
Yeah. And everything. So, Hunter basically shouldn't even be going to court on this charge. And anybody who wasn't named Hunter Biden wouldn't be going to court on this charge. They would either have bargained it away, which was originally what was supposed to happen. The gun charge was supposed to be dismissed. He pled guilty to the tax charges, paid restitution, and paid them all back, and was just going to I think it was maybe community service or 30 days in jail or something, I don't know. But and then the Trumpers had a fit, right? And they, Hunter Biden's laptop and blah blah blah, and sending out revenge porn and all that stuff, and that's when it all fell apart.
The judge wouldn't take the settlement,
right? The judge wouldn't take the settlement because he couldn't be sure that they wouldn't come back and bring those gun charges in the future. That was why. And all they had to do was drop them unequivocally forever, and that deal could have gone through. And honestly, if Hunter Biden is convicted on these gun charges and decides he's going to appeal it all the way up to the Supreme Court, he'll win, because it's a gun charge. It's Second Amendment, stuff like that. I mean, they've said that domestic abusers can have guns. Why not cocaine addicts? I mean, anyway, and I guess there was some blowout today in the trial that caused them to basically have a long weekend. They dismissed the jury.
Yeah, they got dismissed really early. The jury got sent home very early in the day. What time? Like
I think it was like 10 o'clock here. So I don't know.
I didn't hear anything that happened after Naomi Biden's testimony today.
Well, Naomi Biden's testimony is what blew everything up. Apparently, when she was cross-examined, she testified to that he didn't seem to be on drugs, that she didn't find any drugs, she didn't find any drug paraphernalia, and then on cross-examination, they had texts where she commented that he seemed a little erratic. She didn't say he was on drugs, but she did comment on his behavior. So I don't know. We'll see. I guess and I guess that caused some real grief in the defense room, and so yeah, it's I don't know if they're how they're going to proceed, whether they're going to put him on the stand or what. But again, I mean and I'd like to know why it is that we can't actually know that the form was doctored, because the judge has said they can't directly ask about that.
Really?
So I don't know. Maybe more prejudicial than probative. I don't know, but I would like to know the answer to that question. And they have been trying to kind of come around it, the defense in their questioning, but the best they've been able to do is to, I think, instill maybe a little doubt in the jury's mind about the efficacy of this form, without really saying, what the deal is with it. So,
Well, the one thing that I take away from it, all of the reporters that have been there reporting on it just say how just terribly sad this case is.
it is sad. And it's sad.
Well, it's
And
basically the core of it is steeped in addiction
Yeah.
and
it's
depression.
sad, and it's sad in a number of different ways, not the least of which is that Beau Biden's wife she was the star prosecution witness against him. So, I mean, talk about, digging into a family and causing rifts in it with this, right? So now you have Naomi Biden basically trying to contradict what, the former Mrs. Beau Biden, said. I can't remember her first name or how to use it. But,
Hallie.
oh, right. There you go. So, yeah. So it's like so sad on so many different levels, and it's exploitative in terms of, like I said, if he was, John Smith, he would get a plea bargain and that'd be the end of that.
Yeah, they just want to. It's just you go back to Adam Swerver. The cruelty is the point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I really started thinking about, well, could I say the same thing about Trump? Could I say that if it wasn't Donald Trump, they wouldn't have prosecuted these charges? And the honest answer to that is no. I mean, in New York, the charges there, they've done 9,700 cases
Right.
like that. Right. And a lot of them are bargained away, but, Trump wasn't going to bargain. So that was his choice, right? And that was his choice to go to trial and everything. So, the Florida case, which seems hopeless at this point, would absolutely be prosecuted if anybody else. I mean,
look at Reality Winner,
Reality
for
Winner,
one document.
Petraeus, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it would absolutely have been prosecuted. And then, I mean, there's no case we can compare the Washington, D.C. case to. There's none. I mean, it stands on its own. But
thank God.
Right. But I mean, again, it would be wrong not to prosecute him in that case,
Yeah.
So
yeah, it would be. Oh, I'm having trouble with my words today, but anyway.
So
it would be negligent. It would be like constitutional negligence.
Oh, absolutely would.
Before we move on from Hunter Biden, I just want to point out that the Biden family has been supportive.
Oh, yeah.
Jill Biden, the first lady, flew back from France.
Yeah.
To be there today with her son. And she has to fly back to France to be there for more ceremonies.
Right.
And when you look at that and Trump's family, you had Eric showing up
Trump's family has been to his trial.
Yeah. So it's quite a contrast.
Quite a contrast.
Yeah, no, it's night and day. And Biden in France is a contrast to Trump in so many different ways too. They even released an ad basically because, Trump with the people who die in wars are suckers and losers, and, his criticism of John McCain and his callous treatment of Gold Star families and everything. And, the Biden campaign rightly is highlighting that behavior and contrasting it.
And this is what,
and not just that, asking was it General Milley or John Kelly that he asked?
It was Kelly.
It was Kelly. What? And Kelly's son died in combat.
Yeah.
Kelly's a Gold Star family.
Right.
Asking him why would people do that?
Right.
Why would people risk their lives?
Losers.
I mean, that ad is pretty brutal. If you haven't seen it, I sent it around earlier today. But
yeah, it was brutal, and it was appropriately brutal because this is the people who allegedly support him. I mean, in the past, the people who lay claim to the Republican Party try to, run with the mantle of being the ones who support the veterans and the military and the, God country flag and all this stuff. And
always they
where did they get off? Saying that, voting for this guy who has nothing but contempt and disdain for people who would serve.
Well, it's
the only person he would want, the only purpose for him of a military would be to protect him in his mind, because that's what a dictatorship is.
Well, it's to turn the military on the rest of us, to keep us in line.
Right.
Because he sure doesn't want to use it to protect our allies and our interests overseas.
No. No, they wouldn't be our allies if he were in office. That's the other thing to remember here, right? Is that
God, how much
Zelensky was in France too, and they basically the point was made that he's fighting now for the same freedoms that were fought for 80 years ago, and that wouldn't be true if Trump were in office. Trump would yank all the Ukraine funding right away. And that,
well,
the clawing back that we had to do internationally of our status and reputation when Biden finally took office is,
and our allies
any
don't
thinking
feel
person
secure.
Reason enough.
After what happened in the Congress this year, and the fact that these polls that we keep getting, the contrast is so clear, and I don't understand why these polls are so close, other than polling error, bad sampling, bad design, bad interpretation. The McKay Coppins article yesterday in The Atlantic was also infuriating, in that he's reporting about how the leaders of our allies are all making plans for Trump, which they have to. They have to have a contingency. But it's just killing me that this is something that they have to contemplate.
Yeah, those kinds of articles, McKay Coppins is famous for those kinds of articles.
I know. He's got an agenda. I know that.
Yeah. So I don't even worry about that. But it did aggravate me too. But those planning would go on. When Trump was president and Biden was running against him, they were also planning for Biden. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, they have to do that.
What you do.
Yeah.
Right. And
they have to do that.
Yeah. And none of them are happy about it. Sure, they're not. But, it's not, I guess to me, it's a non-story, that part of it. As far as the polls go, I think we've talked about this before. I think we should assume that everything is tied. That it shouldn't be, but we should assume that it is.
Maddening.
But it's mad. Of course it's maddening. It means half this country has lost their mind. And I've been trying to understand. Did I tell you about my encounter with these guys in CBS like last week before we left?
No.
So I think I might.
I don't know if you said anything about it on Crooks and Liar.
No, I don't. Yeah.
Remind me.
You didn't tell me.
I'm in CVS looking for, like some Tylenol and some stuff to take with us on our trip. And these two dudes are standing in front of the pharmacy, old dudes. They're standing in front of the pharmacy, and at the top of their lungs, in the loudest voice ever, they're like, "Look what Biden has done. This pharmacy is closed for lunch. It never used to be closed for lunch. Now it's closed for lunch." I'm like,
Biden did that?
How did Biden do that? I'm just standing there like with a gape, like, normally you don't do that. And the other guy's like, well, the country's just gone to hell since Biden's been there. And I'm like, I'm still wondering, how is it that the pharmacist taking a lunch is somehow
Biden's fault?
Biden's fault, right?
if the CVS is understaffed and they only have one pharmacist who can take a lunch break and nobody can cover, I would think that would be the corporation's decision not to hire enough pharmacists, and that has nothing to do with Biden. That's the corporation, and that's what Wall Street wants.
Right.
Right?
Wait,
Right.
did you hold your tongue?
I kind of didn't, because they went on from there. And
Yeah. So
like one
so
guy
continue
said,
the story. There's
wouldn't have
more,
voted-
and I want to hear it.
I wouldn't have voted for Trump, but now I just, I'm going to do that because the country's going to hell. And I couldn't keep my mouth shut at that point. Like I know you can't see the visual, but just they're maybe 5 feet away from me. I'm in the aisle. They're standing in front of the pharmacy waiting to pick up their prescription. Right. And I just poke my head over and go, Trump is a crook. And I said, why do you want to vote for a crook? And they ignored me. They didn't answer me. I don't know if maybe they didn't hear me. Maybe they're deaf and that's why they were shouting.
Maybe if they
possible.
participated in the healthcare that's available to them, they might get a hearing aid.
Right.
Well, maybe you're just a woman, so you don't count.
Oh, that's probably
probably what it is.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I repeated that like 3 times, and that as they were going back and forth about how they were going to vote for Trump because the country was so much better 4 years ago. Right. I'm like, Trump is a crook. And then finally I just decided, oh, well, screw it. I'm just going to get my stuff and go. What's the point? But so it almost felt staged to me. That's how bizarre it was, And
that is really bizarre.
Yeah. And so anyway, yeah.
You got trolls on social media. Maybe we've got in-person trolling going on too.
It's possible. And I guess that's why I wanted to say something, because if anybody else was overhearing, I didn't want them to think like they should reconsider, how they felt about Trump. And this was, let's see, this was before the verdict. So this would have been like Wednesday or Thursday.
So you couldn't say he's like a convicted felon.
So I couldn't say he was a convicted
felon would have been
right.
Chef's kiss,
exactly.
Oh.
So anyway, but that's why you have to assume this is tied, because Republicans are going to fall in line. And I do see where the polling is showing that independents do take this verdict seriously, and they are swayed by it. So that's good. I mean,
but how long will they stay swayed?
Well,
that's my worry.
That's why Biden has to be out there saying convicted felon Donald Trump, or not Biden necessarily, but his surrogates and his campaign, and everybody else needs to be out there saying that. So, it's just, I understand the aggravation, like, why is this even a thing? But it is. So we have to work with the reality we have, not the one we want. And that means,
I'd like to swing back to Normandy. And just mention that video of the World War II vet meeting with Zelensky. Which brought tears. I mean, I get sobby every time I watch that.
Mm-hmm.
It's so moving.
It is.
And Zelensky seemed just overwhelmed, seemed like, how could how could someone who fought in World War II, pay me this respect? He seemed so bowled over with, like, humility and, disbelief. And it seemed so genuine.
Well, these were all centenarians now, or near centenarians.
Yeah.
And for those that didn't see this clip, it's during the ceremony. And Volodymyr Zelensky shook the hand of a U.S. veteran who was in a wheelchair. And the man tried to kiss Zelensky's hand. And the Ukrainian president instead stooped and hugged him. And the veteran called Zelensky, "You're the savior of the people." And Zelensky said, "You saved Europe." And they called each other their hero. And This was on the big screen too, so the crowd cheered. The old man looked at the younger one and said, "I pray for you."
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it was
I
a
choke up.
moment.
Yeah.
It was a moment, and thank God for Zelensky. I pray for him too.
Yeah.
Because he's preventing World War III.
He's doing what he can
Smacking the
to
gas.
prevent World War III.
Yeah.
The Republicans in Congress are doing very little to help.
Well, they're doing what they can to start World War III.
That's right.
So
That's right. Should we talk about putting Scott Perry and
Yeah,
Ronnie
speaking
Jackson on the
speaking
House
of,
Intel Committee?
I mean, even Republicans are pissed about it. It's not just Democrats that are pissed, and Republicans who are on the committee already are like, "Why are you doing this?" Right?
Yeah.
They're not qualified to be on this committee. I mean, they do take that seriously. And I don't like Republicans, but I agree with them on this. Why are they
look,
doing?
sometimes you agree with, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So
That traditionally that committee is one of the more nonpartisan ones
right,
Yes.
because they put the country first.
right. So
And to have these raving January 6th truthers on there.
well, and it's just because Johnson caved. Mike Johnson
Yeah.
caved. It's like
It's because this is what Trump wants. He's
right,
figuring that he's not going to get the intel briefings the way
right.
he'd like to. And, he needs another Devin Nunes to come
And now he's
back to
got
him
two.
and tell him things. Right.
I mean, and Scott Perry, I mean, he's his own security risk, right? I mean,
They both are.
yeah. But I mean, Scott Perry, like they've seized his phone
Yeah.
because of his activities on January 6th.
And Ronnie Jackson's a raging alcoholic who got demoted because of that.
And a drug dealer,
Yeah.
if you don't mind my
Not even a
saying.
dealer, just a peddler here. He's
Yeah.
a Candyman. He was.
Yeah.
So, right. So it's just, it's appalling that they're on that committee, and they shouldn't have security clearances. They shouldn't have the ability to hear this stuff. And, Trump is not going to get briefed because you know what? Felons don't get security briefings.
Felons don't get that. You
Yeah,
know what
I'm
else felons
interested in
don't get?
seeing-
His gun licenses. So I'm
Right,
enjoying
that's
that.
right. So they're in the process of revoking his gun license too. Does anybody believe that Donald Trump actually knows how to use a gun and use?
No.
I don't think so. I mean, that's all just sucking up to the NRA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just fun to contemplate
Yeah.
that he's, but that'll be something that his acolytes
The thoughts going through
will
my
get
head.
up in arms about.
Yeah.
And the other thing yesterday, okay, so you had that Wall Street Journal article.
Oh God.
So the Wall Street Journal publishes an article saying how
Feeble.
all these unnamed sources are talking about how Joe Biden is losing it behind the scenes.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Now, supposedly they have interviewed dozens of people on both sides of the aisle about this.
Right.
But the only people they quote are Kevin McCarthy and Mike Johnson.
Right. And Kevin McCarthy actually said that Biden was sharp. So
Right.
he's just lying because that's what he does. And
Right.
The thing is I felt like this Wall Street Journal article came out just because they wanted something to distract everybody from Biden in France.
Yep.
Yep.
And then in the morning, the trashy British tabloid Daily Express reported that Biden mysteriously withdrew from the ceremonies.
Mysteriously.
Not.
And then the rumor went through the right wing echo chamber that he pooped his pants.
See, that's
everything is projection.
It is projection. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Whoops.
Everything is projection.
Yep. It all is.
They can't take it. They cannot take it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just.
I hadn't actually seen that, but I saw
I
somebody.
haven't seen that either.
I saw somebody say something about how it was just meant to. Basically, it was a confession that.
But that's what Trump does.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is what Trump does.
Which is
but
what's been rumored for the whole time. I mean, Noel Castler
in the trial,
talks
like,
about it all the time.
no wonder it's freezing in the courtroom because they have the air on blast on full. You know,
Except it
it's
wasn't
probably
freezing.
60
That's the
degrees
bad
in
part.
there. Yeah.
So yeah, no, I hadn't heard that he left early because of that. That's absurd. That's ridiculous. I'm sorry.
Of course.
You know.
And then he did show up for all the things that he was
Right.
scheduled to show up for, and he gave some excellent speeches.
Yes,
Yeah.
he did.
Sure. He stumbles over words. Sure.
He's a
You know,
stutterer.
he's an 81-year-old man with a lifelong stammer.
Yeah.
I stumble over words too. I mean, all the time. Like, or
Yeah.
they don't automatically recall because stroke damage. That just
Yeah, stroke victim.
you know, and that's just how it is. That doesn't mean I'm stupid or that I'm
Nope.
Or that
Or
you're
that you're
losing
losing
it.
it.
Or
right,
anything.
or anything like that. So, I mean, it's really ageist. It's that, you know, you stop and think about it, and you stop and think, you know, like Donald Trump couldn't get his butt on a bike and ride it, right? And nobody says word one about that. He's 3 years younger than Biden. So they really just are going after the ageism because they don't have anything else, right? The
Right.
economy's great, jobs report's great, inflation is cooling, you know, has cooled and everything. The economy is still pretty hot, but
Hot. The economy, the jobs report was amazing.
yeah, I
Right.
know.
Which, you know,
It's a
it's
two-edged
good
sword.
news and it's bad news.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
because you can't have pure good news when a Democrat is the president.
Right. You can't.
Did you guys see that report yesterday about Joe Biden disrupting OPEC all by himself?
Oh, did he do that?
I did see something about that. Yeah.
Okay, so basically, you recall when gas prices were going sky high and Joe Biden released
Right.
from the strategic oil reserve.
Mm-hmm.
And so he released this oil and put it on the market when the prices were sky high.
Yeah.
And then when the prices went back down, he bought it back.
Okay.
And so by doing this, he diluted OPEC's power.
Right.
And it has stabilized the oil prices because if they decide to jack up oil to dangerous heights again, he'll just do that again.
And he did, by the way. He released 1 million gallons like a week ago.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
so
ahead of all the traveling that's about to be
Right.
happening. He did it ahead of Memorial Day weekend, didn't he?
Right.
Yeah, which is normal spike
Yeah.
in gas prices.
Right.
So I read that OPEC was going to I mean, not only did he disrupt them, but they figured it out and decided that they just needed to. And in the other piece of this is that now the U.S. has taken over a lot of the production that they used to buy from OPEC. So now the OPEC countries are going to lower their prices because this is how markets work, so that we can buy some from them.
And I call this a Biden win.
I do too.
I was going to say, how is any of this bad? Don't we have it as a goal to become more energy independent?
Yes,
and
we are
less dependent on other countries for oil.
Yes.
And don't we want prices to come?
Right. No, we want all that. We want all that, and we want all that whether we're Republican or Democrat. But what happens is that it's the Democrat that does the stuff like this, right? And in Biden's case, he's been really strategic about not just with oil prices, but also with getting the renewable energy in place so that we're not so dependent on oil anymore.
Yeah.
And so those are the two pieces that he's going forward with. He's doing it really well. And, you know, so that's driving Republicans crazy. That's why they do stuff like go after him and say he's old and doddering, because they can't actually criticize the stuff he's
They have
doing.
nothing to criticize him on the substance.
Right.
So they lie.
Right.
And they promise to reverse all the policies when they come back.
Okay, good.
So we don't make progress. Just like Reagan tore out the solar panels from the White House when he came in.
To this day,
I'm still pissed off about that.
I am still pissed about that too. Can you imagine how much further along we would be?
Absolutely.
We had listened to Carter and
well, can you imagine how much further along we'd be if Al Gore won?
Yeah, and continued on the path
in history.
To continue on the path.
If John Roberts, Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett hadn't won during their stint as Bush attorneys.
Yeah.
In Bush v. Gore.
Right. So, and
none of them would be Supreme Court justices.
That's right. And they shouldn't be Supreme Court justices. And the one who really shouldn't be a Supreme Court justice, by the way, is Clarence Thomas.
Oh, yes. Let's get to that.
So I just want to say that I loved hearing today that Clarence Thomas amended his disclosures to include his luxury trips from Harlan Crow.
All by himself.
Which he said he inadvertently omitted in 2019, and to which I call bullshit, because back in 2010, he inadvertently omitted $700,000 of income from Harlan Crow to Ginny Thomas. So please tell me more about how inadvertent this was. It was not inadvertent at all. And he originally argued when the ProPublica article came out that it was he didn't have to disclose it, that those were not things he had to disclose. And now all of a sudden it's inadvertently omitted. Give me a break. I mean, you just figured out that. I mean, I don't know if John Roberts said, listen, if they haul you up in front of Congress, I'm not going to protect you. I don't know. I don't know what happened.
Or maybe something else is about to drop.
Elena Kagan wouldn't take a bagel.
I know. Well,
she wouldn't fucking accept a bag of bagels
and just
to congratulate in the form of congratulations for her appointment.
Did you guys see that chart that showed all the money?
Oh my God.
That they it costs out all the money that the Supreme Court each Supreme Court justice has received, value of gifts over a period of time.
And it's a long period of time. It's like 20
a long
years.
period of time.
Yeah.
But it's, the bars are like little, and then you get to Thomas at the end and it's like that.
For a comparison, Alito was like $174,000 and Thomas was $4 million.
Right. $4 million.
For the same. And I'm like, I'm not even surprised by this at all, but it does.
I would have actually thought it would have been more.
It's got to stop. And
this is what we know about.
All have to stop giving deference to these guys, and especially Clarence Thomas. And to that end, if you read the Washington Post article last weekend where the flag story on Alito, the Washington Post had it. Remember, I told you they had it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they had it 3 years before, and they didn't. Yes. Out of deference to Justice Alito, they did not.
Black guy.
Out of deference, it's time for them not to get deference. It's time for Durbin to haul their ass up in front of Congress and grill them. Enough already.
Durbin's not going to do it. Schumer's not going to do it. Sheldon Whitehouse is the only one in the Senate that has the balls to do it.
Yeah, and he doesn't have the power to do it. And that's why I say that they should be pressured. They should be pressured. Durbin.
That's what I'm saying, but he's the only one with the fire in his belly for it.
No, but he's on the committee. I mean, he's just not the chairman of the committee.
I understand that, but like that's what that's what's so frustrating is the
I
people
agree.
who have the power on that committee are so
Mhm.
milquetoast about it.
Yeah, I agree.
And
It's
and
very frustrating.
I don't understand. I don't understand why. I mean, I'm sure there's some. I don't want to believe that it's just that they're so devoted to the concept of civility that it supersedes any kind of ethics or value, just totally taking away the value of the Supreme Court. But maybe they are. Maybe they just have.
I don't know.
I don't know what possible reason could they have for not going after
Well,
this with
Republicans play a lot of this. If you do this, we're going to do that, right? I mean,
yeah, but they don't
They
have
do that
shit
anyway.
on us. They don't. You just said
No.
you just by virtue of what you just said with this chart that I have not seen.
Yeah.
What do they even have?
This
I
is
mean,
an investigation.
even Alito only has in terms of like the gifts they've received, only has 174,000 that he's
That we know
reported or
about.
whatever.
Yeah.
Now,
That we
this
know about.
is totally worth an investigation. There should be an investigation.
Why? They can say, sure, we'll come, just like they're doing for Hunter Biden.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, the Republicans care a lot about gun safety. And whether or not a felon owns, whether or not somebody make sure the right people don't own, the wrong people don't own guns, but it's let them come after us if they. What are we so fucking scared of? What is Dick Durbin so afraid of? But he doesn't want his best. Is he afraid that like his scotch drinking hunting buddy at the lodge is going to not be nice to him anymore?
So I wish I had my camera on so you could see me breaking my neck, nodding to what you're saying. Yes.
Well, that's what you get for visiting Taco.
I know, right? Well, I'm actually taking care of Taco right now, but
I know. It's not. It's a grandma. It's a grandma responsibility. I understand a grandpup thing. I get it.
So, but anyway, I mean, yes, I'm like nodding my head, like yes. And that's what we have to. I feel like that's what
I'm calling out my own. Like I generally like Dick Durbin.
Yeah, me too. But he's not. He's being.
And I'm generally a fan of Schumer. He's my guy. He started out in my district. He had an office literally around the corner from me. It could take me 45 seconds to walk into his office when I lived on Quentin Road and East 18th Street.
Yeah.
His mother was a substitute teacher in my school, and she would brag about him all the time. When she would, my son, he's in Congress. He's a representative in Congress. And she went on and on. Whenever she would come in as a substitute at PS 255, did we hear anything else about her son, Congressman Schumer? But I mean,
Schumer or Durbin?
Schumer.
You're talking about Schumer. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, like he's he's the leader.
Yeah.
Of the party in the Senate, so I'm like saying these are guys that could potentially have impact. And it's not like they don't know how it works in the Senate.
Harry Reid would have done it.
We've seen
Harry Reid.
Yeah. Harry Reid knew how to do those things. We have watched the Republicans.
I'm sorry, Schumer knows how to do these things too. He's just choosing not to do them.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
He's been in Congress for 45 years or 50 years or whatever.
Yeah.
He knows what to do.
They all know what to do. They're not doing it. And this is like where I just want to scream at the Senate, because there's nothing to be gained by downplaying or ignoring this. And I thought at first, well, maybe it's to protect the senators that are running in 2024. But honestly, this is not protecting them. It doesn't have anything to do with them. I don't think any of them that are running are on the committee, except maybe Amy Klobuchar. But she's got a wacko that she's going to run against probably, and it's not going to be a problem for her to win. I guess.
I don't think she's in any danger, is she?
I
I mean,
don't
we have
think
actually on
She's
our
not
list.
on our list of.
Yeah, we should. We're going to get to that eventually.
We
But
are.
yeah, I don't think Klobuchar is.
No, I think she's.
You know, and again, I say to them,
Minnesota.
if when Republicans come to us and say, if you do it to us, we're going to do it to you,
They're already
those are
doing
playground
it to
taunts.
us. You know, we watch right now in the House where, here they talk about the Democrats weaponizing government. The Republicans have been weaponizing congressional hearings for 15 years, right? Or 20 or 30 since Gingrich came in.
Yeah.
And we had 2 of them this week in the House. We had one against Fauci, yet again. And then the next day, they brought in Merrick Garland.
Yep.
And,
Who
again,
toasted them.
And they are trying to get the tapes of the Robert Hur interviews with Biden.
Oh, God.
And, the transcript was
that the purpose of the... I wasn't following, I'm sorry, the Garland hearing. Was that the purpose of the hearing?
That's the purpose of the hearing. They want to subpoena those tapes, and Garland is claiming executive privilege.
No, Biden claimed executive privilege, and Garland is not giving them the tapes because of that.
Right. But Garland is also saying that this would chill law enforcement's ability to conduct these kind of interviews.
Yeah.
And the thing is that, Joe Biden and Mike Pence both voluntarily gave up the classified documents they found in their homes.
Right.
This does not cancel out the egregious number of documents that had to be gotten from Mar-a-Lago.
Right.
And the other thing is Trump was complaining fundraising last week, saying that the FBI was authorized to kill him.
Sorry.
Right, that was.
So, Garland was again pointing out that these are rules of engagement that limit force, and that they're standard on all search warrants. But all of the usual.
If somebody was president, you would think they would know. But
they do know. Speaking of that, right? So Jack Smith asked for an emergency, basically extension of the gag order on Trump to limit those comments because they were dangerous. They were putting.
You mean Alvin Bragg, right?
No, it was Jack Smith went to Eileen Cannon.
Oh, okay.
And because that was the warrant.
There's so many gag orders.
I know. Well, that was the warrant that they took that language off of and had a shit fit over. And so he went to her and said, I need an emergency gag order because this is putting the FBI agents in danger. It was an emergency. And he enclosed with the filing emails that he sent to Trump's attorneys, and they all said, we don't have time to talk about this right now. It's Memorial Day weekend, right? Which was intentional. So Eileen Cannon, because she's Eileen Cannon
in his pocket,
right? She decides that that they didn't do the meet and confer that they were supposed to do on this as a courtesy before he went and asked for an emergency gag order. So she denies the whole thing and says, you can come back and do it again after you've done that. So he does that. He goes back, and now she's like, okay, well, we'll have a hearing in, I don't know, at the end of June. It's an emergency. Hello. They're asking for it now. I mean, now I think it might have actually chilled a little bit them doing that because the filing itself might have, because it's just so out of line. It was, and they kind of stopped doing that now. But that was their whole Memorial Day. Basically they had 3 whole days to cook that. right? And have Fox News and Newsmax and OAN and all of those places, say Biden's trying to assassinate Trump, right? Which is, of course, not true. And this is what they do. They do it all the time, and they have this is why, by the way, we have to assume a tie in the polls, because the right-wing echo chamber is so vast and so loud.
And it's also why the Democrats in the Senate need to be more aggressive.
Yes, exactly.
So that we can get some of that news attention too.
Exactly. Bingo.
Because if
Yeah.
the echo chamber is so vast and loud, but it's also
Coordinated.
so dangerous.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
Because if in that right-wing echo chamber you have them saying Biden tried to assassinate Trump, combined with anything they try to do to us, we're going to do to them. And Jack Smith saying, please do a gag order or extend the gag order on Trump so that he cannot say things like that and feed this echo chamber.
Right.
And Aileen Cannon says, nah. And Jack Smith takes it up, to wherever he needs to take it. And it ends up, and could it end up in front of the Supreme Court?
Well,
I'm asking only because I don't know,
So she's got 2 strikes right now with the appellate court. And if he goes to the appellate court one more time and they uphold him, they'll remove her from the case entirely. But she seems to be just staying on this side of that. So
she's getting advice.
Yeah.
From the Federalist Society or what?
Yeah.
Or told like
Probably.
how to almost.
Right.
I mean, her latest thing to delay it is that she's having an amicus brief hearing.
Right. And this is
which is not done at her level.
The funding of Jack Smith's office. This is a settled thing that the special counsel can be funded. I mean, the Supreme Court just ruled that the CFPB could be funded by other means than straight appropriations, right? So this is not an issue, but she thinks it's interesting. So she's going to have everybody come and hold an argument, a whole day of arguments with the amici and everybody else talking about how Jack Smith his office shouldn't be funded this way. And of course, then
she's got 2, get rid of the special prosecutor. He shouldn't even be there. And 1 in favor of the special prosecutor. And they each get 30 minutes to argue their case.
Right.
Which is more than most people get at the Supreme Court as an amici.
Right. So that's awesome. And I read today something that she, likes stuff like that. She likes esoteric issues. And I'm thinking,
because it's an interesting intellectual exercise.
Because it's another waste of effing time.
Exactly.
I know. I'm being.
So let's because we could be mad about all this, but there are things to be glad about. Like Steve Bannon going to jail on July 1st, right? Which means
finally
taken off the board for the election. Bye-bye, Steve. And that was his own doing. Nobody did that for him.
He will be released 4 days before.
That by the time he's released, most people will have voted already.
That's true. And today, Mark Meadows was arraigned in Arizona.
Yeah.
By Zoom, but still, he had his arraignment.
Mm-hmm. All right.
We know that Trump will get his sentencing on July 11th.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I bought this orange shirt for, and then I realized that it's also Gun Violence Awareness Day today.
It is.
So that's why I'm wearing it.
It is.
So I thought that was red, though. I thought that was a red color. Okay,
no, it's orange.
That one's orange. There's Mom's Demand, I think, is red.
That's where I got. Okay, so Mom's Demand is red. There's so much to remember.
It's all in the rainbow, and it's Pride Month. So
it is Pride Month. And
we salute the rainbow.
Yeah.
We do. And besides Mark Meadows, wasn't there another one in Arizona? on the
Oh,
fake
Mike
electors? Or
she's Chesborough, Mike Roman.
I don't
oh,
think
right,
Chesborough
Chesborough
has
was the
been
one I
arraigned
was
yet,
thinking
but
of.
Mike
Yeah.
Roman and the other one, Mark
There's so
Meadows.
many.
All right, so all that's moving forward.
Yeah.
And
And we have about 5 minutes left. So I would like to talk about down ballot races.
Okay.
Or actually, we all want to talk about down ballot races
yes, we
of
do.
senators. This week we'll talk about senators that need your help. They need your donations.
Yeah.
We've got Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin, Bob Casey, Jackie Rosen in Nevada, Sherrod Brown in Ohio, and John Tester in Montana.
Okay. The guy that Sherrod Brown is running against in Ohio is a real asshole. I mean,
Yeah.
he's doing stuff like the stuff he's posting on Twitter is this side of defaming Sherrod Brown, right? I mean,
Really?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's really bad.
Oh
And,
my God.
and stuff.
Okay.
So every time I see that ad, I'm going to donate to Sherrod Brown. The other name that's not on there that should be is Andy Kim.
Oh yes,
He's
Andy
running-
Yes,
Kim
Andy
won
Kim
his
won.
primary.
And
He won his
Menendez
primary.
is basically filing papers as an independent, so
What a
that
jerk.
Yeah.
assuming that he's going to be convicted. I mean, I don't
Screw Menendez. Screw him. That's Andy Kim. Andy
Right.
Kim should and will be New Jersey's next
No, I
senator.
totally agree, and I that's what I want. But
Yeah.
I just don't want Menendez to fuck it up by being,
Yeah.
What a selfish asshole.
Oh, totally. So, yes.
See, and that's one of the differences between us and Republicans is we can call out our own.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we do.
We're capable of, we're not blind cultists, and we can identify the people in our midst who, not to pat ourselves on the back, but
So the guy that's running against Tammy Baldwin, Eric Hovde,
Oh my God.
he's awful. And he's a Newport Beach rich boy who moved
He lives
back.
in California.
I don't even think he's like moved back. I think he still has, he has a lovely home in Newport Beach. And he's a carpetbagger and he just can't.
Yep.
Wisconsin people don't like carpetbaggers much, so he's not getting the traction that he should. But he's still a challenger to
he's got lots of money.
and he's got a
he's
ton
got
of
a
money.
lot of money. And
honestly, that's what Republicans recruit these days. Like they don't care the quality of their candidates; they need people with money,
right? So they can run the ads and they can do the And
because
the thing is that
the grassroots fundraising other than for Trump, because he siphons off everything.
Yeah, all the small dollars go to him, and win red, which is what is required of every Republican. It's a for-profit, right? And so I'm guessing Trump has a piece of that too.
Oh, I'm sure of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's all a racket.
I mean, it's a total racket. Yeah,
it's all a grift for them.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that with these now 6, I'm glad we added Kim to it. They, if you took $30 a month and split it between those 6, and they would at least donate, they would know that $5 a month was coming in from you or whatever, multiply that by 100 of us. And that's, what's 5 times 100, 500
is
they know there's another 500
adds up.
1,000 was 5,000. It adds up. And it's money they can count on between now and November. And it's, hopefully, if we're in a position to do that, these, maintaining and even increasing our lead in the Senate would be just, it's crucial.
We need the trifecta.
We do.
We need it.
Yep.
We need the trifecta because we can make good things happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
And on that note, we've gone through our hour. That's our show for the week. Join us next time on YouTube, momocrats.buzzsprout.com, or on your favorite podcast service such as iTunes, Google, and Amazon Music. And be sure to check our Facebook page for updates. I'm Donna Schwartz Mills with Aliza Worthington, and Karoli. And Karoli's waving, even though you can't see her. And we're saying goodbye for the MOMocrats. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
MOMocrats Mama Chat is part of the Demcast family of podcasts.